In the last video, we have designed our database, we have created all the tables we need, we have learned how to use, how to utilize, how to leverage ChatGPT so that our productivity can boost up. Now is the time to integrate authentication in our application. So first of all, we will use a UI library so that we can integrate some UI elements inside our application easily, such as models, or if you need a animated sidebar or something, there is a great library called ui.shatcn.com, or we can say, as you can see, this is our application and it is running on port 3000, and this is all the code. You can find all the code in the description. There is a link to GitHub, and we are going to use this library called ui.shatcn.com. It is a great library. It has a lot of components and we can use these components instead of building that on our own to increase our productivity and to not reinvent the wheel again and again. So as you can see, currently we only have the Tailwind CSS installed. So to install this UI library, we just have to follow all the things. So if you want to create a directly repository, or you can say a fully fledged Next.js product with this UI library, you can directly use this command. But we have already installed all the things, so we have to manually install this library. So first of all, we will install this npm packages. So we are using pnpm. So I will open a new terminal and I will install all of these things. So this is for icons. Tailwind merge is used for merging the Tailwind classes, and I will explain you what it is later. CLSX is also for merging classes, and it's kind of like if you want to use logical classes, or if you want to like assume if you are doing something and if something went wrong or the error occurs and you want to render a button color to red based upon a logic, then you have to use some JavaScript for your Tailwind classes. So instead of using JavaScript, so instead of doing curly braces and these brackets and all these things, you can directly use CLSX and you can define logical class names for your Tailwind CSS. Here we have class variance authority. It is for defining variants for your components. Like if you have a button which is primary button, danger button, or info button, etc. And Tailwind Animate is just a plugin. Now we will see how to proceed. We have already defined this path. So now if you open tsconfig.json, you can see we have defined our paths here. So we can, instead of relatively importing, we can directly import using this. So our imports will not look ugly. So now we will config our Tailwind CSS here. Yeah. So we will copy everything inside the Tailwind config. So where it is here, we will use this. So Control+A, Control+V. So you can see container center. These all the things are defined for us already, and these all the colors. You can see the radius, the border radius, and the primary color, secondary color, all the things. Cool. And now here you can define all the colors. So if you want to change any color or theming in the future, you can do that. So inside the styles/global CSS, Control+A, Control+V, and these all the colors are being used here. You can see variable, primary foreground, and these all the colors. So we are good to go for now. But as you can see, we have defined a color which is primary color, which is our blue color. So we will use that color here. What I am saying is, if you Control+Z here a few times, this is the color. This is the Twitter color we have used. So copy this color, Control+Shift+Z. Now if we save this, we need this color everywhere. So for the, here you can see how to customize theme according to you. So here is our theming section, and we will see how to use that. So given the following, this is primary and this is primary foreground. Okay. So here background is good, card primary. So primary color is this. This is the color we are going to use, primary color. And primary foreground is black. So we will just use #000 and it will work. Okay. And we will see if it won't work, we can change it anytime later. So now we have defined all the things. Now we have to do one thing more. We have to define this helper. This will combine the CLSX and the Tailwind merge, both these into one, and we will use this. So copy this into a source directory, create a new folder called library. Inside the library, create a folder called what? We can say it utils.ts and save this. Now it is good to go. So in this library, we are using the Lucid icon library. So you can use any you want, but we will use both. And basically we have created our layout, so probably we don't need anything for now. So now in the components, we have to create a new folder called UI. In the UI, we can now copy and paste a lot of components from here. So first of all, we need a dialog, or we can say a model, so that we can utilize our authentication for that. So if you have previously used Twitter, so if you are not logged in, then it won't allow us to view anything, and it asks us to first authenticate ourselves. So that's how we are going to make this application flow. First the user have to authenticate themselves, then they can proceed. And now as we can see, everything is good. But for now, let's control plus close the terminal and restart everything, so it will work. npm run dev. Now visit your application, refresh this. You can see the Tailwind, all the classes are gone. Why is that? Let's see. Maybe because if we delete the next folder here, and that's the problem. Restart the server, refresh the page. Sometime this hack works, but okay, so this is not working. So something is not defined correctly. Okay, so this is the problem. We have a source directory. So instead of directly saying, you can say source / go into the app directory and find all the TS and TSX files, find all the Tailwind class names and use those for classes. So instead of this, we can directly say, go into the source directory and find all the folders and do all the things. Save this thing. Now it should work. Yeah. Now you can see this is working, but something is weird. Why is that? Because we have configured our Tailwind CSS and the font is also looking a bit weird. So first of all, we will improve our color and our font. Yeah, so this font is looking ugly. So these are the colors, this border radius, font families, font sans. Okay, so I don't want it. I want, okay, so default should be sans, and it is good. Now the font is looking good. The first thing we have fixed, the text color should be, so if we go into here, we can say text should be white always. Now it is good. Text is white, and this tweet button is not looking good. So we have to make it look good. So in the left sidebar, where is our button? Here is our button. Okay, so we are not giving, okay, so the primary color is not defined. That's the problem. So here, instead of doing this, here colors, ring, foreground, primary. Yeah, it should work. So let's see the problem. BG primary foreground. Yeah, so the BG primary color is not working, which is this color, which is this variable, the primary variable. So we will find this variable where it is, and we will fix this thing. This variable doesn't need this RGB. This variable needs HSL format. So we can search RGB to HSL. So we will 29 155 240, 29 155 245 240. Yeah, that's good. This is the hex and this is the HSL. So I want a easy converter. Where it is? Color converter. Yeah, this is good. So I will copy this thing, and now I will copy the HSL format. I don't know, but this is a less. I don't like this thing. This background also is not. So we have to change this from. Yeah, now it should work. You can see this is working. So the problem was we were using HSL format here to convert these variables into a HSL format. Then we are using this. That's why we have to define this. I don't like this approach. I would go for directly the color approach, the hex color, that always works. But for now we can skip the part because we have done all the things. Our background is working. Okay, and the thing is, if we go here, the BG is black. Cool. But why it is not showing any color here? Yeah, it is showing. It is showing now. So if we remove this text white, let's see. So the text is not by default white. So for that, we have to again modify something here. Into the colors, input color, all these things we have to modify. Border, input, ring. Okay, so what we can do, we can ask ChatGPT to give us all the colors for Twitter, because the ChatGPT already knows the GitHub colors. So I think it should work, because it is too much hard work to define every color, and I don't want you to get into that for now. So we can ask ChatGPT to use Twitter colors and modify this file, this code accordingly. So now it is given us the Twitter code to use Twitter colors. Yeah, it's good. I have replaced HSL values with respective codes for Twitter. Note that use HSL, don't include HSL. Nice. So as you can see, and it should work, I think. And let's see. So now this is the color for Twitter, and yeah, so now everything is changed. You can see, but the text color is blue by default, and we don't want the text color to be blue. For that, we can ask it to again modify this thing. Change the text color to white, and the only color which needs to be Twitter blue is button background and borders or accent colors. Okay, the only color which needs to be Twitter blue is accent color. Okay, so we have changed this thing. Body apply bg background, text foreground. Text is foreground. Let's copy this file again. So it haven't given us the HSL values. Change it to HSL values without HSL keyword. So this means it forgot. Now I think it will work. Yeah. Now let's see. Okay, so it haven't changed, but here we can do apply bg background and text should be white. Now it is good. So now you can see the border is good. If we type, the color is good. Yeah. So you can also use the ChatGPT like that. Otherwise, if I had to do this all alone, like finding the colors and doing this would take me like an hour or so. So to save my time here, I would go for this approach. As you can see, now everything is good to go. We just have to do something here. So now first thing first, we need a dialog, or we can say the model. So for that, we just have to do, first of all, we need to add a button, or we can just add a dialog, and I think it should add all the things related to dialog. So now we can copy and paste this command here and hit enter, and it should add a dialog button. Where would you like to install the components? So in the /src/components/UI. So we will copy this thing. Maybe in the future, if you want to install any other component, then we will just paste this. So now it will install the component in the dialog. Here you can see this component is here. So basically it has copied and pasted all the things. Okay, now we need to also install the button, because the button thing we need always. So here is the or button. Copy this. Now we have also button. You can see all the variants of the button. That's why we have installed this class variants authority for our buttons. Now this is good to go. Now we need authentication for our application. Okay, so for that we have to define something. So first of all, we'll find the documentation related to Supabase authentication, Next.js 13. So this is our authentication. First we have to install these libraries. So we'll open a new terminal. This terminal is only for the UI part. This is server. This is for installing all the other dependencies. So we can say npm install Supabase auth helpers Next.js. We also have to install this React auth helper, so we can use all the hooks that are provided. Next.js 13 is stable. However, the new app directory and server components are in beta. Check out our experimental guide. Yeah, so we are using this app directory. That's why we need to follow this documentation, and you can find this link here. I will paste this link in my readme authentication setup. So you can follow along the video if you want, and you can also follow this article to integrate authentication for your application. So first of all, we will copy this environment variable. We will create an environment file .env here. .env, not for now. First we will check if we are using .env here. No. So we have to ignore .env file here first. .env. Now we can define a .env.local just like it, so that it doesn't get tracked by our GitHub. These are not secret. Next public means these keys can be public. What can't be public are Supabase secret keys. So we will see what are they in the future. So yeah, now it is good. So your Supabase URL and your Supabase NN key. We will find this key by going to Supabase project. So supabase.com, sign in the ultimate clone, and in the project settings, in the API, where is the, let's see, API. Yeah, here is our project URL. Copy this, next public, this is our project URL, and this is our NN public key. See, this is secret key, and this key has ability to bypass row level security. Never share it publicly. So don't share this key publicly anytime. You can use this NN key always. So now let's paste this thing here. So now we have my NN key. Now we have my Supabase URL. That's good to go. Okay. So for the authentication, allow new users to sign up. You can enable this. We can enable also custom SMTP settings. That means we can use our own email provider credentials. Now here we will define a configure middleware. So we are using TypeScript. You can toggle this thing here. So we have to use a middleware that will be called every time we request a page, and this page will contain the cookies and all the things that will be handled by this thing, and it will provide us the Supabase session. That's how we know who is accessing our application, or we can say we can know the user details when the page is rendered. So copy this thing. TypeScript types can be generated with Supabase CLI. So we will also generate all the types. So for that, we have to use these things. Supabase start. First of all, we will do Supabase init. Now you can see the Supabase inside our application. This is seed.sql if you want to seed any data. For seeding your data, you can also use ChatGPT to write some queries for you. You can use ChatGPT. Always use ChatGPT, I would say, to increase your productivity. So now we will say Supabase start. I think it will start the local instance, which we don't need for now. We'll just use this thing. If it works or not, let's see. It will generate our types in the library and database type.ts. Okay, you can use CLI to generate types, but the point is I'm not using. So first of all, we have to install the Supabase here. We still haven't installed the Supabase. If we go to package.json, we have installed the auth helpers, but we haven't installed the Supabase JS library. So npm install Supabase JS. This is how we create a client, and now we can fetch the data. So where should we generate the types? So I think we can generate the types in supabase/database.types/ts. So it is asking us to install or to run the Docker, and then we have to run the Supabase local instance to generate the keys. But what I want here, I want the remote database to generate the tables for us. So okay, so what you can do here, if you don't have Docker, first install the Docker for your machine. So if you visit this, you can download for your machine, install this, and make sure the Docker is running fine. And now I will open the Docker so that we can run Supabase inside our local machine. Now if you visit the Supabase dashboard, we are using the remote version, but for development we want a local version. That's why, because we need to generate the types, and it is asking us to generate the types. Now it is good. Or we can ask it to, I don't want you to get into the Docker and stuff. That's why I want the remote support. So Supabase generate types remote database. Okay, so first login, then we can use this command to generate the types. Cool. So let's login npx Supabase login. So we have to generate the access token here. So I will generate a access token. So paste this thing and generate a token, local machine. So I have this token. I will not show you this token, and you should keep this hidden because this is a secret. Okay, now I can close this thing. Now we have generated our custom token. Now we can generate the types here. So instead of using the project ID, so we can now delete this Supabase. We don't need it. Okay, what I'm saying is, first I will write steps you need to follow before authentication. Generate the types for your tables. For the tables, for the database we have created in the last video. So for that, npx Supabase login, and then you have to do is this command project ID and insert your project ID here. I will insert mine. So I will go to my Supabase dashboard. This is my ID. I will copy this and I will copy here in the public. Yeah, I will hit enter. Types Supabase to, let's create a file, or you can say a folder. Types. Now it should work. It is generating the types, and it has generated the types. You can see we have all the bookmarks, we have hashtags, we have likes. You can see row, insert, update, everything is here. These four things: likes, profiles, replies, hashtag, tweets. Okay, and these are the views, functions, enums, all the other things. But these are our tables, which are 7 tables. This is a profile. The row is full name, ID, updated username. Okay, so the username can't be null. Why it is saying this can be null? Okay, I'm not sure about that. Maybe we have did some mistake. This is also row. ID, reply ID can be null. Tweet ID can be null. Yes, these profiles. In the profiles we have full name. So the problem is when we first run the query, it has created a row which has null, and then we have run another query, then it doesn't override it again. That's why the username can be null, but we don't want the username to be null, so we'll modify our database. So in the profiles, the username can't be null, so I will say allow nullable. So I will not allow this to be nullable, and is unique. Yeah, save this thing. Now we have deleted our username table. This is a must thing we have to do, because we don't want any user to sign up without a username. And if we now again generate the types by using the same command, you will see that the username is now string and not null. In the profiles, here username is string. No, it can't be null. So this is the important thing we have to do. We have to remember. So here you have to use your project ID. Good. I will clear everything. Now we are good to go. So where we were creating this thing, middleware.ts, in the root of your project, and populate with the following. So this is a middleware which we are going to use. So let's see how it is being used. So this is a client component. In the client's component, we can always use the Supabase client, and we can fetch the data like this. This is simple. But in the server components, we have to use like this, create server component Supabase client, which comes from here, and then we can fetch the data like this. And this all data will be fetched on the server. So you can follow this repo for the whole example. Okay. So this is a middleware.ts, which we need to create in the root of our directory. So middleware.ts, go up, copy this thing, iterate database.types. What we can do, instead of here, we can paste this thing here, or what we can do inside the library, supabase.types. Now it works. Remove this folder. These are our types. Cool. So it is a middleware which will handle, it is a database which is this. It will create our Supabase instance, and it will provide us the authentication, and it will provide us the session of the user. Close everything. Now in the app directory, create a Supabase provider which will provide the whole application, and it will work like a context. So Supabase provider.tsx, copy everything, and this is a client. That's why we are using instead of supabase.types. Yeah, if we call it database.types, it will be fine. But yeah, if we can call it Supabase client database, we are defining the types. This is a context. Supabase provider, we will provide the whole application, or we can say we will wrap our application inside this provider, and it will run the use effect hook, which will check every time if we are authenticated or not, and export cons use Supabase. Supabase must be inside Supabase provider. And now we can use this use Supabase inside our application, so we don't have to define again and again, and it will be only one instance of Supabase inside our whole application. Save this thing. Now we have to wrap our whole application inside this Supabase provider here, like this, in the layout.tsx, like this. So inside the body, we will say this is Supabase provider, import this from Supabase provider, save this thing, and it will work. Now any of our client components base hook, use Supabase hook to ensure they are using the same instance of Supabase client, or we can say they will not be creating more than one instance. Okay, so now inside our client components we can use this, inside our server components we can use this. That's okay, that's good. So first of all, we will try this thing inside our server component. So in our page, this is a server component, we can see. Now we'll import this, create server components, import the database and the headers and cookies. Do not cache this page where we get our headers and cookies. Okay, let me see that. We have to import this from next header. Okay. Now if we try to log in, log this console.log supabase. All the things, auth.user get user. It will give us, let's await for it. Let's make this function async, and we will log in the user here. We will see if the user is logged in or not. Save this thing, and now you can see the data is user.data.user. So instead of doing this, we can see the data and the error, and we can log both things. Now we have the user is null and error is missing subclaim, or which means we are not authorized. The status is 401. Now we will try to authenticate the user. So what should we use? Which method should we use? I will use the Google login because this is the easiest one to create. So I will go to Google Docs. So to create the Google authentication, you have to follow these steps. You have to get the auth, and now you have to do all the things here. We can use a password method, username password method, but I'm not going to this. Add login code to your client application, sign it with Google. So only email providers is enabled for now. Okay, so I think we can use the email. If you want any other provider, you can see their docs. Their docs are very user friendly, very easy to follow. We will use the magic link login for now. Simple login. The user will receive a login. They sign in with OTP, and that's all. This simple thing. We just have to provide the email and everything will work. So let's copy this thing, and that's all we need. We have to enable magic link authenticator to your application. So here in the email, I think this is already enabled. So what we will do, first we will create a model, or we can say a dialog. We can create it here. So we can see if the error dot status is equal to 401, which means the user is not authenticated, then don't allow user to see the whole thing. Or we can say here, if the error dot status is 401, what we need to do is we need to show the user the model. So if this 401 means the user is not authorized or the user is not authenticated. So now we will import the dialog here, which we have created in the components. So remember to import this from UI/dialog. So in the dialog, we have dialog content like this. And now here we can also use the input. Okay, so we can say, so to use input, we can also use this thing, input. This will provide us a beautiful input field. Now if you go into the UI, you can see the input. So import the input from components. This is a client component, and you will see why is that. We have to define this as a client component inside another component. So first of all, let's save this thing and see how it looks. Where is our application? Localhost 3000. You can see this is not visible now. So we can say if the error dot status is 401, we have to open this. So is open, default open. We can say if the error dot status is 401, then open this thing. Refresh this. Now you can see we have this model and we can't see, but we have got a few errors. Doesn't match. Expected server HTML to contain matching div. The hydration error. Refresh this. It will not work. Okay, so what we need to do, we have to cut this whole thing. We have to create another component, auth model. We can say not a folder, it is a file, auth model.tsx. Here what we can do, rafce. This is a client component, and to use a client component we can say use client. Why we can't use this as a server component is because at any point we have to write something, we have to send some data to our server, so we have to interact to our UI, and for interactivity we need to use client side components. And if you are not sure why I am using a use client here, you can watch my Next.js app directory tutorial, which was a to-do list tutorial I have published a few days ago, in which you will learn to build a to-do list application, and inside that application you will see why we are using here use client, and you will understand for sure. Okay, now you can follow along. Here I will copy this thing. Dialog is good. Close this. Here we will use a use state, and these hooks can be only used in client component. That's why is open false. Import the state here, and we can say open is open, and on open change is set is open. So now we can control this model to open and not open. Import the input also. This is good. Now what we can do here is open, so we can directly fetch the detail here. Okay, so what we can do here, so this whole thing can be used inside our provider, where we have used Supabase provider, which is a client component here. Here we are providing the whole thing. Here we can find the details. Okay, so I think here we can do all the stuff instead of creating a new component. By the way, we can import the dialog from components, copy the state, import everything, dialog and dialog content here. Import the dialog from components, save this thing. So now we have a dialog and we are rendering the children, and it is open by default if the user is not authenticated, and we can do it by doing it here. So we can say subscription dot, not like that, we can say supabase dot auth dot get session dot then result, if result dot error dot status is equal to 401, then what we need to do is we need to open the model. Otherwise everything is good to go. Otherwise we don't need to do anything. So just save this thing, and that's all. We don't need this auth model anymore. We have created all the logic we need for our authentication inside our Supabase provider. So now this is good to go. We can remove these components because they are not used here. Go here. Now you can see if we refresh this, okay, it is not working. Let's see the result here. First of all, log the result. Okay, where is our localhost 3000? Now you can see we got two things. We got session and we got error. Okay, so if the session is null, which means we are not authenticated. So what we can do, if the res.data.session is not true, if this is not true, or which means the user is not authenticated, then open the model, otherwise don't. Now you can see the model is open, and we should not be able to close this. Okay, now it is good to go. This is our dialog overlay, background 80, bg background. We can change all the things here if you want. You can see dialog trigger, dialog content, header, footer, title, description. Cool. So if we refresh this, you can see we are not logged in, and we are seeing that we need to do something here. So here we can do all the magic. First of all, we will make this whole look like Twitter. So bg black, give some padding to it. Cool. Now this is a form, and we need an input field for now. So input, we have already used that thing. The type is text. the placeholder is email, and here we can say div or s3, please sign in to continue. Give some classes to it, text lg my4, save this, and let's see how it looks. Now it's look good. my4 is bit much, it's good. Now we need to make a button also. Button, import the button from UI, send login, and we can include a short here, a paragraph here. You will receive a login magic link here. We can give it some classes, text sm, text is white, or we can make it gray somewhat, 200, that's good. Or we can also give it margin white too, yeah. And what I need is bright auto. The color is not looking good to me. This is Twitter color, but this is not looking good to me, so I will say bg white, and text is black. I want it to be end, so for that what we can do here is I can wrap this whole thing inside a division, and I can make it flex. I can give it w full, and I can say justify to the end. So now the button will at the end. Text should be white. When hover, text should be white, and when hover, the border should also be white. Okay, so what you need to do is to make this application beautiful, you have to give some time here. You have to select all the colors without using ChatGPT, because we always want to make sure that our app looks good. Inside Tailwind CSS, Tailwind config, inside the styles.css, where it is, inside the globals.css. Here you should carefully define all the colors, and that's how it will work nicely. Otherwise you can see it is working odd, and you will face the problem like this. So for that I will use the default colors provided by here. Theming, for now I will use a default color. In the future I can go for different color, but for now I am going with default. Now you can see, refresh this page, it's good. Now I can remove this button already looks good. You can see this button already looks good, and the border, the hover properties, everything seems perfect. Instead of text gray, I would go for 900. Okay, so, and for our home page, what we can do here, so for our home page we can give it text white here, so it will work good. Now our text is white. Instead of this tweet, wherever we use the primary dash primary, like here bg primary, so here we can use the tweet color. So go here. So what we can do, we can insert a new color, Twitter color. We can say it Twitter, and we can use the Twitter color hex, Twitter color hex code, this code here. Now if you go to here, instead of bg primary, you can replace it with bg Twitter color, and it will work. It will work as default. Instead of compromising with the default UI classes, modify all the, yeah. So now it should work. So now if you visit our application, you can see our tweet, everything is looking good. If you refresh, yeah, this is good. And now we have to log in the user. So for that, first of all, when the user on submit, it receives an event. So we have to prevent the default to prevent the page to reload again. And now we have to submit the user email. So for that, we can use a state again. Use state snippet email. First of all, it is empty. Set email to whenever this state is changed. So on change, it receives event, and set email event.target.value. Okay. So why this login button is looking blue? Because we have changed the button color also. So if we go to here, instead of this, we have changed this thing also. So we have to use the primary here also. Now it is good. Save this. Let's go into here. If we hit the login button, it will work. This function will run, and it will call the Supabase function, which is supabase.auth.login. Okay, so we have to find the documentation where it is login with magic link. Sign in with OTP. Sign in with OTP. So here we can provide the email, and we can say email.trim, and we can also check if the email is correct or not. For that, we can choose the email field here. Type email, and it will by default check it if the email is correct or not. Then we will trim, and we will send this. And options are should create user data, and we also need a username, so that we will define another field which is text placeholder username, and we will use another state. Use state is username. It is by default empty. Set username, and we can say minimum length, or we can say the minimum should be 3 characters long. Now if we parse the username, in the future we will also check if the username is exist or not. First check if the username exists or not. Okay, so we also need to show some toast to users. For that, we will install a new library called Sonar. It's a great library. You can visit the Sonar npm. You can see this library render a toast. This is a beautiful toast, and this is the same toast I'm using for my website Club of Coders. If you search Club of Coders, so I'm using this for my website and I can recommend it. It's a great and awesome library to render the toast. So we have installed this. First of all, if we go to app in the layout, here we can define the toaster. In the Supabase provider, I think here we can define the toaster also from Sonar. Import this from Sonar. We only need one toaster, and now we can use toast dot like this, toast dot success like this, error like this, username already exists, please use another one. We have to check this. So for checking, we can say Supabase await Supabase dot from profiles dot, and make this function as a async function dot. We can fetch, we can select, we can do everything. Select dot. Now we can say select where the username is. Let's find the Supabase docs so we don't miss anything. So in the fetching data, we can select the data, and here are the filters we can use like this. Select dot. Now we can say is equal to, it accepts two things. Column is username, which is also a string, and the value is which we have used, username dot. Let's trim it if the user has typed any white space. We can find it. It provides us data and error if data exists. And let's console.log the data first of all. And we can say username already exists, please use another, and we can return it from. That's how we are checking if the username is already exist or not. And we are sending sign in with OTP. Now we are good to go. We can await this also. We can await this, and when everything is successful, we can close this model. Or let's don't do anything. And let's see for now what is happening. So go here in our application, refresh everything. So we are making sure that everything is good. Extra attributes from server, cjet shortcut listen. Okay, I will use my email, which is clubofcoders@gmail.com, clubofcoders.com@gmail.com, and I will type my username also, club of coders, and let's click on the login. We should also show some loading state. For that, we can use another state here. Use state. You can see how many states we have to use here. Button, or we can say, we can say is loading. Initially it is false. Set loading is true, and here set loading is false. And when it is loading, show the make the button is disabled. Simple, disabled. Save this thing. Now if we type clubofcoders.com@gmail.com, I will type my username also. You can see we have to give some space here. Let's click on the login. Username already exists, please use another. So in the data, you can see we have selected and we got nothing. So the array is empty. So if we can see the data dot length is equal to 0, or we can say is greater than 0, then show this. Otherwise don't. Data and end data dot length is greater than 0, then show this and return from there. Otherwise login the user with email. Now here we can remove everything. Let's also give some space to this input. Class name my2. Now you can see it's good. clubofcoders.com@gmail.com, club of coders. Hit enter. Now you can see it is sending us an OTP. So now it first find that if the username is exist, and it found that username doesn't exist. Now it has sent the request with the data of username and this user. Now the user should be in our database. So if we go to our tables, and this authentication and this sign in with OTP also should create a trigger to create a username which we have passed as data. So we should see a username inside our profiles. Let's see. Yeah. So you can see we have a Club of Coders username inside our profile, and now we are signed in inside our application. Okay, so if you hit a button again, you will receive that username already exists, and it will find this full name and this user. Okay, that's how it works. And we are now signed in to our application, and you can see this is the current user. This is the user which we have faced. Now you can remove this. We can remove this. We have successfully created this sign in functionality. Close this thing, close everything. We should be able to see the data here. Okay, so it will not sign us up because we have to verify us. So I should have received a magic link for signing in. You can see confirm your sign up. So if I click this link here, now I am signing. Yeah. So now I have signed up for the application, and you can see the data here. ID is this, role is this, my email is this, and everything is here. Okay, so now I'm signed in and I didn't see anything, so we can remove this. We can also remove this. Basically we don't need anything because we are handling all the what we say the authentication logic inside our Supabase provider. Here we have created a dialog, we have created a form, and we are using this authentication here. So now we are signed in and we are good to go to build the functionalities, the tweet functionalities, the like functionalities, the bookmark functionalities, and from the next video we will create all these functionalities, and I'm super excited. I hope you like this video. Please leave any suggestions and feedback. Check out my course on cloudforwards.com, which is a full stack course which will teach you everything related to full stack development using TRPC, Next.js, Prisma, and the whole T3 stack. You can see this is a great course and you will build a blog application using this course. So that's all for this video. I will see you in the next one.